Academic stress, peer pressure, social media, self-esteem, family-friend relationships, illness, loneliness, stigma, guilt, regret. Academic stress, peer pressure, social media, self-esteem, family-friend relationships, illness, loneliness, stigma, guilt, regret. Self-esteem. People don't know how to deal with it. And it's like, even if you don't suffer yourself, it's like if you have friends or family members who do, you don't know how to help them because we've not had that education. We've not been taught about that. We've not been told how to help people, like how we can offer assistance and things. And I think that's a real shame because it isolates them more.
People don't want to talk about it. It's a taboo subject, but it shouldn't be because everyone has mental health, and then people just have different levels of it, and sometimes it can get really bad and it can snowball out of control really quickly because you don't talk about it, or if you don't feel it's necessary, or you're just making a fuss.
Why aren't we treating it? Why aren't we more interested in helping people? Because it's ruining people's lives.
There are people that are labelled as mentally ill. It can automatically have an effect on the way people look at them and the way they view themselves, which creates an even bigger problem because it's just these negative thoughts.
Mental health needs to be acknowledged more because, if I fell over and grazed my arm, there'd probably be loads of people running and saying, "Are you okay?" But you can see that, and that's physical, but mental health isn't physical. So people choose to ignore it. It is there and people recognise it, but it is chosen to be ignored.
I think the modern world is very different for young children in particular and as they get older because the pressures on them are the social media, I think, is huge. Television, desires they need to look a certain way, they need to behave a certain way, they need to achieve. Everybody has high expectations and I think it puts a huge amount of pressure on children and they all seem to need to be busy all the time. I worry that they don't perhaps sometimes just sit down and watch a film, read a book or just do something, just have some thoughts sometimes. It all seems to be very, very busy. We've had some concerns for some time about the pressures that children are under, particularly in our school. We have done some work on social and emotional work in small groups with children, and a colleague had heard of mindfulness, and we were lucky enough to do a staff training session, and it kind of sold it to us all, really. We had a session as adults. I actually think all adults, all our teachers should be trained in mindfulness as well. It was something we felt we wanted to invest in and try to support our children with.
I've decided to work with primary partly because I wanted to be able to teach the whole age range, but also because I could see a need. I could see that when I was talking to secondary school students that they were talking about particularly year 5 and year 6 as being really, really tricky years and that they wanted, they wished they'd learned skills back then. So I thought, well, actually, this is what I'd really love to do. I'd love to be working with them at this point before they get to some of the biggest stresses that come their way, like SATs and also transition to secondary school. Who here sometimes feels like they get stressed? OK, so lots of us do, don't we? In an ideal world, I'm very realistic. I can see that in a whole class of 28 children that you're going to have children who really, really take to it and love it, and other children who are like, well, I'm not sure this is for me. But what I would hope for them is that when they encounter those big rites of passage, when they have those moments that cause them stress, that they've got a toolkit, a set of techniques that they can use to resource themselves, when they're feeling really stressed. Focusing on our breath is one of the ways in which we can train our minds, OK? So we're going to have a little go at that now. Just rest one hand on your belly and one hand on your chest. And I want you to just tune into your breath for a moment. Now see if you can just tune into the in-breath. Well done.
It's like a lesson, but it's not on maths or English. It's outside of something I normally do.
If I'm really stressed, then it can just calm me down.
How you could concentrate on your breath. I didn't know that you could actually do that and you could actually feel your body moving as you were breathing.
I learned a lot about the brain because I didn't know that we had all those parts that we could change.
Academic stress.
Academic stress.
Academic stress.
Academic stress. Academic stress. Academic stress. Academic stress. Academic stress.
Because there is constant pressure, it affects us because we're having to worry about these grades that we're having to get or what we want to do after. It's not really about that moment in that time, it's more about the future and what everybody else is doing and what we need to get into university, and it's just so pressured that that's all we can think about.
I think this is a huge issue because coming from an academic school myself, there is so much pressure on getting the best grades, and if you're aiming for a grade and you don't quite achieve it, then that is not good enough and you need to be getting them straight away. And then the issue of once you've got that grade, you still need to keep improving yourself and keep moving forward, and there's no recognition for when you actually do something really well, and it's always pushing to go to the next level. And actually some people can't get to the next level, and that's when you get people with mental health problems that are just falling behind, and it's not fair.
Social media.
Social media.
Social media.
Social media.
Social media. Social media.
It's really hard to keep our bedrooms private because we're addicted to social media. So we're having the thoughts of, oh, I'll just pop onto Facebook, I'll just pop onto Twitter, Instagram, just put a quick post. It's fine because it's only a photo of my food or what I'm doing. But still, that's giving everybody the image of what you are doing in that time. So actually, I want to go and see what everybody else is doing in that time that they're in their bedroom. But then the whole point of a bedroom is so you can go and escape from maybe having an argument with your parents, from school, to go and do your own things, like your personal things.
Yeah, because now, once you've had an argument with your parent, you used to go up to your room and then slam your door or something and then sulk or whatever. But now you go up and then you start complaining to all your friends, and you post on Facebook, you post on Snapchat and everything, saying, oh, I can't believe what my mum said or something. And now everyone has to know about it, rather than just, it doesn't stay within the family anymore, and then everything becomes public.
Healthwatch approached us at one point and was really interested to find out our views on what were the main issues for young people in Rutland. And mental health came out to be something that was, really quite at the top of the list, to be honest with you. And it was unanimous among the group, and from what we'd researched ourselves, that this is something that we really needed to tackle and focus on.
If you have a conversation with someone and you say, oh, I'm stressed out because of college, it's kind of it's just dismissed, and everyone's like, oh, everyone gets stressed out because of that. And well, why should we be? Why should we be stressed out to the point of wanting to give up and not being able to cope? That's not normal.
To help improve the issues, you need to get rid of the convention of, if you want to be successful, you've got to get good grades, you've got to go to uni, you're going to break out of this convention. Just say to young people, right, find a way which works best for you. Because at the end of the day, the person who knows what works best for them is the person themselves.
The media and schools just need to realise and sort of recognise that there's more than one different route than GCSEs, A-levels, uni, and then, whatever after that. I mean, you can do apprenticeships, you can take a gap year, but it's not really, it's seen as an easy way out. It's not seen as it's not seen as a good option. It's sort of kind of you're not going to uni? Oh, why not? And you're not seen as intelligent enough or good enough if you don't go. It's if you don't go to uni for whatever reason, you're just not smart enough, which isn't the case.
There's a huge sort of ideology about that, that's come into our culture. Then this is how you should live. This is how much money you should earn. This is where you should be living. This is who you should be with. It's a huge pressure on people, and it didn't exist many years ago, but it's kind of sort of crept up on us since the late 20th century and early 21st century. If we don't talk about mental health soon enough and sort the problems out, the stigma, break them down, I think we're going to end up in a real mental health crisis for the whole country.
Everyone has different ways of relieving stress, and I think it's important to look at alternatives in different ways and explore those options. And actually, the only way that we're going to do that is if we get stuck in and we say, right, OK, we're going to kick a football around with blindfolds on. 2, 1, reach. To see how we can kind of bring ourselves back to our senses, or we're going to do a bit of dancing, be active and join together and have fun. And I think often that's missed out, and that's something that we really need to bring back into young people's lives. And yeah, it is very much a trial, and we wish that what we're doing now is going to be kind of escalated on a wider basis and rippled out to other people to help benefit other people's lives, and I think that's fantastic.
So today I'm going to do a taster session for the kids, for the young people, about some folk dancing, Jewish and Israeli folk dancing. And the music goes back to Eastern Europe, broadly circle dancing for boys and girls to join in together. And the great thing about music and dancing, I find, it makes you smile automatically. When you're dancing, you have to smile. It takes your mind off everything else. You're focusing on the steps, the music, and because it's dancing in a circle, everybody's equal, everybody's joining in together. Doesn't matter whether you're an expert or a total beginner, everybody feels part of the circle and part of the experience. Let's do it again. Well done, everyone.
I definitely think that adults have a different idea to issues we suffer them like we do, obviously, because we're going through them now and it's hard to explain to them. You know, sometimes a lot of children aren't as open with their parents as maybe they'd like to be because they just don't know how to talk to them and how to say, I'm having a really hard time and I don't know what to do. And I think that adults sometimes just think they're being a bit irrational and a bit silly and they're just, you know, not coping well with their stress and they just need to go to bed earlier and things like that.
And that's the stigma, isn't it? And that's what needs to be...
They're just kind of denying it instead of dealing with it and saying, oh, OK, maybe there is something wrong, maybe we should talk to you, maybe we should talk things through, see what's going on, see how we can help you. Instead, I think a lot of people just deny it and say, oh, you know, it's just, you know, you're worried about your exam, just go to bed.
I personally think that sport is actually a really good way to get away because you're not sitting at home feeling guilty because you haven't revised, you're actively doing something. Like I play badminton every Wednesday and it just gets me away from school and it gets me away from, you know, thinking about the next grade or it gets you out of the system. And I think sport is a brilliant way to do it because you are being active, you're not sitting there wondering, you know, oh, how can I change my revision strategy to make me remember this or what am I going to do with my life? It's more focused on just having fun, you know, and I think a lot more people need to know about those kind of things and, you know, more sport groups can be set up to help people, especially with mental illnesses, because I think it's a vital part of just getting away and not thinking about life too much.
I think it's harder to be a teenager now than it is from our parents, but only in certain ways. Like, for example, mental illnesses. A lot of our parents kind of just think, oh, it's just a phase, they can snap out of it. But actually, it's not just a phase. And they're kind of looking at this mental illness area in a non-serious way. And I think hopefully we're starting to understand it a bit more so it can change and help us with things like social media, things like eating disorders and education pressure.
Adults in particular don't see mental health as we see it because when obviously maybe when they were younger it wasn't around much and it was this thing that, you know, you couldn't see, so you just thought, oh, just pull yourself together. And actually that attitude is completely wrong for mental health because it's not helping anybody and it can actually make a problem worse. And I think that needs to be reformed and parents and teachers need to be more informed about mental health and be more open about it. You know, even if you think there's a slight chance of somebody having a mental health problem, it's better to pick up on it early and solve it than waiting, I don't know, it can be years down the line before and it can get to really serious points and then it's too late to go back.